Let's talk about paying off your lease vehicle for the least amount possible, avoiding any and all pitfalls and dealer fees. What's the cheapest way to buy the lease car that you have, make it your own, title it in your name? Let's get into it. All right, guys. So if you're in a lease and it's almost up, you always or usually have the option to purchase your lease at the end of the contract. But of course, you have to worry about what kind of fees am I going to be charged? Am I going to get, the dealer going to try and rip me off? So let's talk a little bit about what you can do in the cheapest way to buy out your lease. First and foremost, if you want to avoid any and all dealer fees when buying out your lease, then don't go to the dealership. Like, if you can, call your leasing company and see if you can purchase the vehicle directly from them, meaning the dealership is not involved as the middleman. The dealership has nothing to do with the transaction. You pay the leasing company directly. And if you need financing, like most people do, like if you don't have the full cash to pay off the car, then you just get a loan from your own bank, your own credit union, the own lender that you chose. You have that bank pay the leasing company, and then the leasing company just mails you a title untransferred with a bill of sale usually that you just take to the DMV and then transfer it yourself, add the lien for your new lender, and then you did it all yourself. The dealer was not the middleman in order to add any fees at all. And those fees that you have to look out for when you go through the dealership, you got to understand that the dealership doesn't own the lease car. So when you go back to the dealership and you say, I want to buy my lease, they have to buy it back from the leasing company at the current payoff amount and then resell it to you just like they're selling you a used car off their lot. So that's where the fees and stuff come in, because they're not making a profit off just selling the car. They didn't own it. They had to pay full price for it. So to make anything, they got to charge you something. Of course, there's always going to be tax, title, and registration. Those are unavoidable. You'll pay that yourself at the DMV. But beyond that, at the dealership, they'll usually do what's called a pre-owned certification inspection and make you pay for it. Now, those pre-owned certification inspections are decent things to have on a used car that you weren't driving, right? The benefit of that is when someone's going to a used car dealer and they're getting a certified pre-owned, it's had a 120-point inspection. It's been certified that it's not a lemon, right? You don't know how the previous driver was taking care of it, so that helps you, makes you feel better. But if it's your lease car and you've been driving it, you've been caring for it, you know exactly all of its history since day one, why do you need the dealership to certify it for you? Like, for me personally, I don't need a certified pre-owned if I had the car the whole time. Second of all, extended warranties. So all manufacturers offer extended warranties typically only through their manufacturer dealership. So if you want an extended warranty, the only way you can buy one from the manufacturer is to go through the dealership and pay the dealer the extra for the warranty. Me personally, on a used car I'm probably not doing the extended warranty. It's up to you. It's a personal choice. But just realize when you go to the dealership, you got to pay for that and anything else they want to charge you for. So the dealer's just a middleman. They buy the car from the leasing company, resell it to you, add in fees and things like that, certification inspections, all kinds of other stuff too. So if you want to avoid it, just don't go to the dealership at all. Now, what can happen when you call the leasing company is they can confuse you. So when you call the leasing company, you say, I want to buy my lease, and they're like, oh, cool, you want to finance too? Great, you can finance with us. Go back to the dealership, because most leasing companies like Honda Finance, Toyota Financial, all the ones that share the name of the manufacturer, they're called captive finance companies. So they only lend money through the dealership. So they'll make it sound like the only way to get a loan and buy the car is back through the dealer, but that's the only way to do it with them. That doesn't mean you can't go to your own bank or credit union. And sometimes those reps, when you call in, have been trained to just push you to the dealer. Oh, they want to buy their car? Tell them to go to the dealer. So you have to ask a few times, like, no. I don't want to finance with you. I don't want to go through the dealer. Can I buy the car directly from you off the lease without the dealership involvement? I'll get my own financing. In fact, you have what's called a lease buyout packet or a payoff letter. I'd like the payoff amount in writing with the payoff address and all the forms that I'll give to my bank, and then they'll pay you for the car. Sometimes you have to ask a few times. Now, another possibility, in some states with some leasing companies, and this confuses people, they'll tell you, sorry, we don't sell direct in this state. You must go back to the dealership. And what people will then think is that applies to all leases in that state. So let's say a particular leasing company says, nope, in Florida, you got to go back to the dealership to buy the car. Then someone will think, oh God, everyone who leases in Florida has to go back to the dealership. And that is absolutely not the case. Those rules about having to go to the dealership in certain states apply only to that leasing company. And it's not that it's a state law or anything that's been implemented that's a real rule. It's just they don't want to pay for the process it takes to do the title work. In that state, they're probably operating like a dealership somewhat, where they're responsible for the title transfer. So they're not allowed to mail you an untransferred title. So in order to do the title work remotely, because they're not in the state, they got to pay a title company extra money. They got to get powers of attorney. It's just a big headache. So instead of taking on the extra, effort of doing the title transfer, they just say, sorry, in that state, you got to go to the dealership. But that, unfortunately, still restricts you, right? Whether it can or can't be done, and it's just the leasing company's not willing to do it. So you have to go to the dealership. But let's talk about how you deal with that. So we talked about earlier dealers charging fees for certification and add-ons and excuse me, whatever else they want to add to the price of the car. So if you have to go to the dealership, then what you can do is call multiple dealerships and talk to the finance manager and be like, hey, I want to buy my lease out. Here's my contracted payoff. What on top of this do you charge? Do you do a certification inspection? Do you charge for it? How much? Do you do extended warranty requirements? Do you what are you trying to add to it? Tell me everything you're going to add to the price of the car above and beyond the residual value, the sales tax, and the registration. And then you can find the dealer who charges the least amount of fees. So if you have to go to the dealership, you can at least shop around because they're all different and find whichever one is the cheapest. But ultimately, the cheapest way to buy your lease at the end, if you can, is to go directly to the leasing company, buy it from them directly with financing of your own without going to the dealership at all. All right, guys, if that helped, please like, subscribe, come back for more. I'm Adam the Lease Guy.